Today I'm going to talk about the need for universal health care here overall, but specifically in the United States, because the United States claims to be one of the most developed countries in the world, yet all of its citizens have to pay for insurance, and a lot of people claim that it costs like an arm and a leg for a hospital bill for anything. I can pretty much attest to that without even just looking through insurance, because the immunization that I had would have costed over $200 without insurance. That's expensive for a shot that is pretty much required for a lot of people to have. It is one of the recommended things at a certain age to have. I just remember how much it costed and all that stuff, which was extremely expensive. So those who are not able to have insurance because of whatever reason, can't afford it or whatever, it might be, are put at a less advantage and just compared to everyone else who is able to afford and has healthcare from whatever their job. For children, they might just be able to have the state healthcare instead. But the thing is that it's not that this actually puts us at a huge disadvantage, because if you cross borders for your state, say if you went into, let's just say, Florida instead of the state you currently live in, your insurance will not cover a different state unless you go through certain channels and all that stuff, which is a lot of a pain in the ass. So often you just pay out of the pocket, which adds up over time. And the fact that we have to pay X amount of money every time. A lot of people have a certain, like, if you have to go to the hospital, you're pretty much expected to pay for that bill. Well, regardless of how much. I've heard of stories about some people who had literally while in the bed, they had a cart that would have you pay for the services that you are going to have. So it seems more like a business transaction than a hospital. So I'm not including like surgeons like Garamoni and all that stuff where it is expected, because that's just how it was set up to be. We are paying for a service that we are having, and it was already pre-expected. But this is like an emergency room or whatever. Or this isn't me, this is just stories that I've heard and whatnot. We are actually paying more for our private insurance than we would actually having to go with universal healthcare, where it would cover basically everything that we need. Which would be amazing. It would actually make us more progressive instead of conservative in the world of healthcare, because the fact that everyone is having to pay for their own stuff. Should mention that how poor we are doing in the healthcare service when compared to everyone else who is actually just able to if they need to go to the hospital, they need to go to the hospital. They just go to the hospital. Well, and it won't cost them an arm and a leg. Like, whereas I've heard stories about if you have to go to the ambulance, a lot of people are just saying I've seen these posts on Facebook being like, just call me a cab to go there instead of an ambulance, because it'll cost way too much just to go into an ambulance rather than just being drove there by a cab. Which says something about how our healthcare is. It's too expensive. So plain out, like, we need to have this change because it's ridiculous. Someone shouldn't have to go in debt because of their hospital bills and their diagnosis. Say someone has cancer and they can't afford their treatment. Like, what kind of world is that when you have to be able to go in debt to be able to treat your body of something that you didn't want to begin with? Like, that's just extremely screwed up, in my opinion. And so there's that, and just in general, like, why would you do that? Like, I'm hearing stories about other countries on their healthcare. I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. Apparently, I read this article about some dude who went to, I don't remember what country it was, but they're from the US, and it costed, I don't know, less than $100 for healthcare, and this was without insurance and everything like that. This was just a visitor, and it costed a lot cheaper than it would have without that, and it would have costed $100 in the United States. And we claim that it's because it's not as good of a quality care in the United States, but apparently, according to that person, it was extremely good quality and care. So that does say something. We think that our care is so much better, that's why we pay out of pocket, when it's not. It's just average. So why are we doing it to begin with? Like, I've had good doctors, I've had bad doctors, So it's just a really huge spectrum of, including with insurance that costed over $200 for me because of the deductible, whatever, and the doctor was horrible. Well, in my opinion. So it was just like, ugh. But either way, I have to pay for it because I saw that doctor, even though they didn't do anything to actually help me. They didn't even offer me a prescription for, in my case, what I went for was hormones. I'm like, hi, I expect, and then I go to this amazing place where I had to pay out of pocket, and it's a lot cheaper to go to that place, and they're treating me amazing. They actually work with trans people. I'm like, oh my god, thank you, I love you so much. It's just it was a complete 180. And yeah, I had one doctor over there who was just like a little bit cis doctor curiosity, will I say, which I didn't realize at the moment, but I'd rather have that than the doctor that I had in the other place. So I'm just like, it's a complete 180 from what I was experiencing before, which I only went to that one place once because I'm like, I was the youngest person by a ton. I don't think they ever worked with trans people. They were pretty much just trying to refer me over to the new person, which, no. But there's your gives and takes with doctors. Occasionally they suck, occasionally they're really good, but whereas now I actually, the doctor that I saw, which I'm hoping to get to be my main, but again, the problem is insurance. And so that's the end of the day, it's insurance that's kind of ruling this place, which it shouldn't be. Because I would love to have the person who I saw be pretty much my GP, but I technically can't because it costs so much per time. And the fact that he is not in my insurance area where I won't be insured, so I have to pay the out-of-pocket every time. Time also comes into play, but he's an amazing, I've only met him once. Well, twice by the time this is up. How much the impression has already been done, I'm like, oh, you're not bad. I wouldn't mind you being a GP for me. And also, he is a GP also, other than just what I'm actually going there for, which is, again, hormones. And so that just says something that I could tell within the first time meeting him that he was really good compared to the other doctor who was just trying to push me over versus someone else. So that's a huge difference. Also, the best part was that doctor was trying to push me over to someone out of my insurance zone, which I mentioned where my insurance place was, my insurance coverage was. And they're like, you can still go over to that place. I'm like, no. So even in a private insurance, we still got our crap doctors. We still have our really good doctors. It's all about finding that one that will really work good. And so that's the main thing. So that's why we kind of need universal healthcare, just because not always when we're in the place that we are at, we're able to actually get the care that we actually need without driving so far. I think if I didn't go out of state, I'd have to be driving. I'd have to have someone drive about 6 to 8 hours to find actual care that I needed to have, compared to driving 1 hour. So I think I'd take the 1 hour and having to pay out of pocket for, actually, now that I know that they're good, than having to go upstate to find someone who has worked with trans people before, but I don't. But then we'd have to go for a hotel room and all that stuff, which ends up being more expensive. Then I'd still probably have to pay the out-of-pocket part right until my insurance finishes up. So it's kind of just like a screwed up system. So the reason why we need universal health care is actually because of how screwed up the system is, and how we're trying to actually minimize the screwed upness of the system, so then everyone has an equal opportunity in case you can't have insurance. Which the government doesn't understand that. Because not everyone can afford it, and we just need to be able to have everyone on a kind of a level playing field. Yes, we can still have people, just like in the UK. Okay, they still have their public, the NHS, and they have private options also. Why don't we do something like that, where it's public and private, right? So then you can just kind of choose what you need, but you won't be screwed over if you can't afford the public, which is what the United States is doing. Word of advice, US, universal healthcare. Okay, I'm sorry, this kind of got in a ramble and all that stuff, but yeah, bye.